I think anti-Zionist Jews get a platform while others don't, because people are like, well, I feel safer when a Jew says criticisms of Israel.
I feel comfortable when a 6'6" Jewish person.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I can stand behind you when they start
Yeah,
firing.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm a good human shield.
Yeah.
I'm built for it. Birthright is what radicalized me. That's when I realized, like, oh shit, like the thing I am participating in just by the mere act of going on a trip called Birthright to Israel. That's when I realized how important American Jews were to this project. You, by the very act of me seeing this, you're doing anti-Semitism. You're trying to make me feel bad about this. It's like this constant victim narrative that they have. Things that radicalized me as well was not just like my being like genocide is wrong and Palestine needs to be free, but it was also the fact that it was in the name of Jewish safety. Well, Israel I think, exports the biggest amount of anti-Semitism through the conflation of the state of Israel and Jews of the world. Ideologically, they believe that the support for Israel is more important than the safety of Jews in the United States. And that's fucking crazy. Yeah. That's insane. You'd figure
anti-Semitic.
That's anti-Semitic. Yeah. They're saying we're going to do a little anti-Semitism, but it's for the greater good. That's the whole thing. Let's see Ramallah flooded with European gays and see what happens. And, you know, the implication there being like, oh, and then all the gays will get killed. Yeah. And it's just like, it comes from this like place of just pure racism. The settlers are legitimately crazy. And with settlers, it's crazy because a lot of the times they'll say some pretty crazy shit out loud that you're like, oh, damn, you just said that? That's wild. What kind of society do you live in? What's your community like that you can openly talk about ethnic cleansing and not bat an eye and not be like, what, did I say something weird? Yeah. Why is everyone looking at me like that? All I just said was that babies grow up to be adult terrorists and that's why they need to die. Why is everyone mad at me right now? You make this kind of violence, political violence, inevitable when you have this pretense of democracy and yet no one's voice is heard on this one issue.
I was like, why was the Second Amendment made?
I would assume because armed insurrection against a tyrannical government is the right of a free people. Every American congressman.
I think that's Cory Booker.
Yeah, straight up. Straight up.
What do they call him? AIPAC Shakur?
Yeah. AIPAC Shakur.
Habibi House.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Lieb.
Lieb, okay.
Yeah. Lieberman.
Yeah, like Lieberman, but without the ermine.
But Lieb is love, right?
Lieb means love or lion.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Guess what else means lion?
What? Assad?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Hell
Namesakes. If you guys married, his name would be
Lion.
Lion.
Assad Lieb.
Yeah. Assad Lieb sounds like the most badass fucking dude ever. Double lion.
Yeah.
Double
You saw
lion.
Assad leave, now see Assad Lieb.
Yeah.
Yes. Lieb.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Habibi House podcast. Today we have a very special and very tall guest, Matt Lieb.
At least 6'8".
Yeah.
Is 6'6" on a good day?
6'6" on good and bad days.
Hey, your bad days are better than most of our best. I'm like 6 foot on a good day with the right pair of shoes.
Yeah, right pair of shoes, and a nice ruler that is a little
The
giving.
metric
Little
system.
melted.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Well, we also have a amazing intro for you, my friend.
Yay.
Today, joining the likes of Michael Schertzer and Jacob Berger in the Anti-Zionist Jewish League.
3 people. Our numbers are growing.
Norm Finkelstein?
Hey, 4.
We have Matt Lieb.
Yeah.
He's an Emmy-winning comedian,
Well, yes.
co-creator of Newsbroke at AJ+,
Nice.
a regular contributor on Good Mythical Morning, and a voice behind some of the funniest commentary you'll find on podcasts like Bad Hospita, Fraudcast, and Pod Yourself a Gun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my shit.
Matt's also a self-proclaimed Birthright enjoyer,
Love it.
and and has no shortage of opinions.
That's right.
Whether he's riffing on pop culture, dissecting political absurdities, or just making us laugh about the chaos around us, Matt always brings the heat to the shawarma stand and doesn't claim he owns the place.
That's right. Goddamn right.
Matt Lieb, everybody.
Matt Lieb.
Oh, yeah, that was beautiful. That was beautiful.
Welcome to the Habibi House.
I feel so at home
So
here.
I see you have your God's chosen coffee.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love that the podcast studio is like the lobby is a coffee shop.
Yeah, they got to make their money somehow.
I love. Yeah, now it's not going to happen with podcasting. Tell me about it. I got 4 of them, dog. It's like I start podcasts like they're fucking scratchers. I'm just like one of them's going to hit someday.
We should start one too.
Yeah, start a podcast.
We have one.
definitely start.
Oh shit! Hell yeah!
Let's do another one.
Yeah. Do one that's pro-Israel. That's where the money is.
Yeah.
You know.
How do you know that?
I
They
mean,
got
listen, listen. You see the pro-Israel content? They all have full-on sound stages. I'm like, how? No one watches this bullshit.
They got a budget, right?
How do they have a budget if they have no
I mean,
audience?
we pay our taxes,
From
don't we?
Taxes.
That's right. It's true. It's our taxes. That's how they
Crazy.
fucking podcast.
It's
Damn
a
it.
federal incentive.
Yeah.
Film incentive. You said you're a Birthright enjoyer?
Yes. I say that ironically.
Yes. Tell us about that.
I went on Birthright.
Okay.
I went on Birthright when I was 26 years old. It was like 2011. And
Isn't that like too old to go on Birthright? I thought it was like a 18 to 25 thing.
26 is the cutoff age, I believe.
Interesting. Just like healthcare.
Exactly. Yeah. Once you're 26, you get kicked off of healthcare and kicked off of Birthright. It's fucked up. And
So
then guess who gets all your healthcare? It's
Canada?
Israel. Yeah.
God damn it.
So tell us, you went on the trip when you were 26?
I went on the trip when I was 26, and it was at a time in my life when I was like, I was Palestine curious. You know, like I'd gone to college and I had learned that, like, oh, you know, it feels like the Palestinians actually do have the right to complain about what's going on, you know, and at that point I would say I was a liberal Zionist, you know, which is like
Even worse.
even worse.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'm
yeah.
still going to participate in the holding up the structures of apartheid and genocide, but I'm going to have like mixed feelings about it, which is so much worse. If you're going to be a scumbag and support scumbag things, be a scumbag, you know? It's the halfway shit. That's why everyone hates liberals.
Like, yeah.
And but I decided to go on Birthright, and it was quite an experience. It was interesting because it was at that point. Birthright is what radicalized me. That's when I realized, like, oh shit, like the thing I am participating in, just by the mere act of going on a trip called Birthright to Israel. That's when I realized how important American Jews were to this project, that it wasn't some separate other thing that, you know, because there was a time where I was like, you know, you shouldn't expect American Jews who have no connection to Israel other than, you know, just knowing about it and maybe having some family there to answer for the crimes of a government in which they do not vote. And then it was when I went there, I was like, oh no, we are instrumental to upholding the entire state of Israel. Like, we are there because they want us to either move there and make a bunch of Jewish babies, or to go back home and tell everyone that's my fucking land. And I realized that on the trip, because on the third day of the trip, there was a giant Birthright event. Okay. All of the Birthright tours got together in a big arena. And there was like music, there was Israeli rappers, which, oh my God.
So bad.
Oh, it was dog shit. They were rapping about, like, we invented the cherry tomato. And I was like, no, you didn't.
They rapped about that?
Yes, straight up, they rapped about it. It was so embarrassing.
And the seedless watermelon too?
Yeah. It was
falafel
like,
too?
yes. Oh yeah, they're like, we did pizza. We were the first people to make Chinese food.
Sushi.
Yeah. And it was, and I feel like, I think it was like Miriam Adelson spoke, and
God.
but the
She was there.
Yeah, straight up. I know. I had the chance.
You never missed it.
If I could go back in time,
Maybe Luca would still be on the fucking the Mavericks.
Yeah, exactly.
The butterfly effect.
I know. Oh, what I could have done. And then the headline speaker was Benjamin Netanyahu.
Who's that?
He's this guy from
Sounds
Philadelphia.
familiar. Okay.
West Philadelphia.
Born and raised, yeah. And so he was the prime minister
At the time.
at the
too.
time. I don't know if you guys know this, but Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East.
I've heard that
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, and that's why they have a prime minister who has been prime minister for 30 years. That's why,
But like 6 different times.
yes,
30
yeah,
years,
yeah, yeah. Well, occasionally
Yeah.
people start feeling bad about it in Israel, and then they'll have
They're
some.
like, we'll be back.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like the Trump thing. We did that, didn't
yeah,
we?
Yeah, they're
We're
like, we need 1 year of some schmuck, and then everyone will go like,
You don't know how good you had it.
Oh, you had it so much better under the killing guy, and so
The peace guy didn't work, man.
Yeah, the peace guy was killing him too, but not in a way that was cathartic.
He didn't feel good about the killing.
Yeah, he kept crying, shooting and crying. Now we want someone shooting and laughing.
I mean, that's literally the dynamic between Netanyahu and Yitzhak Rabin.
Yes,
It's literally
literally what happened. Yes.
So I mean, the guy who was literally like,
The guy who tried peace? Someone
we're
tried peace,
like,
right? Or-
Maybe we can give you a 2.
One person tried peace,
Like,
right?
let's maybe give you a state of your own, and then he gets capped. So,
Right, immediately, yeah.
because
And
of Netanyahu.
because of Netanyahu. And then what do the people of Israel do? They make him the fucking prime minister.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
So that's why you know that the 2-state. I mean, I was even thinking about this earlier. Like the 2-state solution wouldn't work because, like, look at Lebanon and Israel.
Oh, yeah,
right?
exactly.
It's the same thing.
Right,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, South Lebanon and Israel border each other.
Yes.
And they're still drone striking on a daily basis.
Yes.
It's never going to work.
What makes something a state? I would say sovereignty. You think Israel respects the sovereignty of anyone around them? No, they do not. It's just not. It's not what they do.
Yeah.
But Netanyahu spoke at it, and which is crazy.
What did he say?
He was the goddamn. What he said was, "You're all from here," which was. I was like, "No, I'm not." I was like, I may not know much, but I know where
It's
I'm
my first
from.
time here. What do
Yeah,
you mean?
yeah. I was like, I just now got here. Maybe he's talking to somebody else. And yeah, he said, you all come from wonderful places, but you're from here. And then he started talking about all the marvelous inventions of Israel. Does anyone have a smartphone? We put a chip in there. And it's just like, it's embarrassing because it's like Israel likes to talk about the shit they invented, but it's always like ticky-tack shit.
Yeah.
Like, we invented the chip in your... Yeah, phones have chips in them. Lots of chips in them.
Yeah,
Just the
yeah.
idea that...
But
and-
their chip is the one that listens.
yeah,
to you.
that's... we put a chip in there that will kill you and self-destruct.
Right. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's straight up though, like he was just bragging about the, technological marvels of Israel. And then he told us, that we should move there. And if not that we should go home and tell everyone what you saw here. And then he proceeded to tell us what we saw there. And he just starts going like, you saw women who get to work at jobs and wear whatever they want. It was everything he said.
Do you see that in California?
Yeah, no. But the thing was, everything was in as opposed to those Muslims. That was the implication, and that's always the implication when it comes to Israel. When they say the only democracy, when they say the only this, the only that, is like we are Western, as opposed to these backwards Eastern Arabs and Muslims and all that stuff. And it was like. It's blatantly racist.
True.
And also, I'm like, what the fuck is he doing talking to a group of like teens to 26-year-olds, like children?
Yeah.
And like, he's the fucking prime minister. He took his time out of his schedule to talk to us. That's when I knew how important we were. I was like, damn, if he's willing to be here to talk to...
I mean, he needs more people to sacrifice in their army.
100%.
Yeah,
What he needs is... cannon fodder
Sure.
and PR guys.
Yeah.
That's what he's looking for.
Yeah.
And what he needs is babies. And the entire
What do
like
you mean by babies?
for their blood, right?
I'm talking about Jewish bababies. I'm talking about what he needs is numbers. No, for their blood. To make the matzah. No. No. He needs
You're talking about to reproduce more in
Yes.
that land so that the land can be more Jewish.
Yes, and like that whole concept to me was sort of new because like as a liberal Zionist at that time, my whole thing was like, well, Israel is at least within the borders of 48 is a democracy. And so anything
There's Muslims that live.
there's 2 million Muslims and Arabs who live there.
Oh,
And my thought wasn't, I didn't realize that keeping a demographic majority was the entire point. And I went, oh shit, that's an ethno-state. That actually is an ethno-state because that's something that you can only reinforce through what? Expulsions, genocide, through, ethnic cleansing, sterilization. Like, how do you maintain an ethnic majority while allowing a free society? You can't.
Yeah.
The only way you can do it is try to get a bunch of Jews there to immigrate and to do genocide. It's the only way to do it. It's why there is no future for a two-state solution. It's why there is no future for Zionism either, because that is something that can't be maintained.
So after birth, like what was the pathway from liberal Zionist to anti-Zionist, and what does it mean to you to be anti-Zionist?
After that, it was fairly rapid. I think it took, I guess rapid is relative. It took a couple of years of me deprogramming and being more comfortable talking honestly with people, but it took me a while to talk honestly with anyone who wasn't Jewish. That was like, for me, the big thing was just like that I was still so afraid that someone would hate Israel for the wrong reasons. That I was so afraid of anti-Semitism that I would
You wouldn't talk to people that weren't Jewish? So you're only talking to Jewish people?
I would only talk to
about the issue?
Yeah, only talk to Jewish people, or I would talk to it would be like these Jewish Facebook groups, a lot of it, and it was like where people we'd all argue with each other about stuff, and I realized that I was doing it because I was like, oh, it's safe in here. It's this way I don't have to worry. I'm talking to someone who might deep down in their secret dark heart hate me. And I just realized that this was a way for me to never grow past a certain point in which I could talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, what use is knowing if you're not going to get the word out, And I realized it was completely unfair, and it was just a way for me to cope, with what I was, complicit in. And so, and then eventually I got to the point where I was like arguing, or I was taking people in bad faith who basically agreed with me, but because they weren't Jewish, I was like, well, I don't know if you can say that. And then I realized, like, of all the people to police anyone when it comes to this subject, the idea that it would be me is actually the most offensive part. It's like, let's let the person who has basically sanctioned this bullshit for most of his life be the one to set the parameters of the debate. To me, this is like one of the fundamental problems with talking about this at all with people, is that I have to break through their own personal insecurities, and this is why I think anti-Zionist Jews get a platform while others don't, because people are like, well, I feel safer when a Jew says that criticisms of Israel.
Yeah, I mean, is that a crazy thing to say though? Like, I don't know. Maybe I do feel comfortable when a Jewish person.
I feel comfortable when a 6'6" Jewish person.
Right.
So I can stand behind you when they start
Yeah,
firing.
Exactly. I'm a good human shield.
Yeah.
I'm built for it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's wrong, but I think it's important to question where that comes from. And it comes from a place that I think is usually a good place, sort of like the creation of like identity politics, right? Which is an important thing, because it is important for people to understand identities and intersections of identities. Those are all really important. The problem is that we have a sort of capitalist liberal framework around it that makes it like perfect for kind of corrupting it. So there was a term I learned recently called deference politics. That's when rather than allowing someone to have an opinion about something, we defer because of someone's identity. And this is, I think, a way for us to shield, I think, ourselves from having conversations that we feel we're uncomfortable with. I don't think it's bad to, of course, I don't think it's bad to talk to anti-Zionist Jews or to platform them, and I understand completely why people feel comfortable with it. Yeah. But it's important to question that, because like why not an Arab? Why not a Palestinian? Why not a Muslim? Why not just anybody? It doesn't matter who you are, what your identity is. Ethno-nationalism is wrong. Apartheid is wrong. Genocide is wrong. There is no, I don't get a pass for it. Instead, what it is, it's more using a privilege rather than getting a pass.
I agree. It's like some sort of power of, because of who you are and your identity, people will maybe be more inclined to like lean in and listen because it's like, oh, well, he's gone through the whole spiel. Right. And like, because it might be looking at a Palestinian and be like, well, of course you're gonna say that, you're Palestinian, but someone who has come to terms with what
Totally, I just think it's important to examine in yourself the thing that says, well, of course he's gonna say that he's Palestinian because we do that.
No, of course.
Like people will do that, especially when it comes to like anti-Arab racism.
And then we would it's kind of like a Key and Peele skit where like Obama has his translator. Yeah. If I'm ever talking to a Zionist, I'm just gonna have you.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like fuming, and they're like, I defer to.
Yeah. I'm gonna let him.
Yeah. Like, please. So, but in doing that, you say you kind of like are using your privilege to speak on these matters. Obviously, there's consequences to that, and you were also saying you were afraid of anti-Semitism, so kind of want to speak about both things.
Yeah, of course.
First of all, have you? What are the repercussions of the path that you've taken, career-wise and just personally?
Well, for me personally, I feel lucky in that I am an unsuccessful anti-Zionist Jew. What I mean by that is like I get attacked, all the time by people, but it's for the most part, I feel like the Zionist institutions that do the smearing are right now kind of they're overloaded. It's like the prisons are overcrowded. You know what I mean? Like they're
focused on some other people.
They're focused,
students.
They're focused on like weakest targets, like students, or they're focused on like big dogs, like like Hassan Piker, right? Or any celebrity who speaks out, Miss Rachel. Yeah, like that's what they're worried about. And so, I get like interpersonal internet beef guys going after me, sometimes. But for the most part, like the consequences have not been too bad. I haven't lost a job, although people have been trying to get me fired from stuff. But for the most part, it's the biggest consequences have been like interpersonal in terms of like people I know. Lost a lot of friends after October 7th. People who their kids would play with our kid, and then after October 7th, they were like, I can't believe you would basically support all this anti-Semitic rhetoric like free Palestine or from the river to the sea, and people going after people. My wife is also anti-Zionist. She's not Jewish, but she's very vocal on Palestine, and we had a friend who said straight up like Hamas would murder our baby, and our baby has played with her baby. And I was like, you would just say that to somebody? Like who says that to people? Right. You know what I mean? It's like I just couldn't believe the amount of
Where does that come? Yeah.
The vitriol. I was just like, vitriol. Yo, I know you.
Yeah.
You know my baby. You
know me.
You know me. Like it's crazy to. And also, I was like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't know what Hamas is. You think they're gonna dig a tunnel through the fucking Atlantic Ocean and pop up in fucking East LA just to kill one baby?
Yeah, like what are you saying?
These people, that, you know, I was like, okay, so you don't know what you're talking about because you're falling into the like, oh, Hamas is everywhere thing, which it is not. That's just coming from a place of you being like, Arabs are everywhere, terrorists everywhere, and I was like, okay, so
are these all interchangeable terms? Do you think in their mind? Like,
yeah,
Arabs want to kill us and all that stuff.
I think it's clearly interchangeable because it's like they'll do things like the Israeli government was being like Hamas is ISIS, and I was like, I don't think you know. First of all, they know what they're doing. Yeah. They know that Hamas and ISIS.
That was a big thing they were trying to make it seem like they were.
Right, because of the association. They're like, we know that, you know, Hamas and ISIS were and are rivals, like, first of all.
And they also fund ISIS.
And also they fund, and they, exactly.
And the U.S. But,
And they don't care about any kind of, like, about lying, obviously, because what did they want to do with that Hezbollah? They wanted to make people associate Hamas, a group that no one has really heard of unless you are, you know, educated on the subject, with those Arabs that were doing the beheading videos in 2011 or whatever. Yeah. Like, they just wanted to cause enough Islamophobia so that everyone in lockstep would go like, oh, yeah, you do need to kill all of them.
Sure.
It was like
manufacturing consent.
100% manufacturing consent.
But what does it have to do with I mean, what about the kids?
The kids.
What's the justification for that?
The kids, the way it's justified is, you know, people will say, well, Hamas puts them in danger. That's Hamas's fault. Yeah. We try our best to not kill the kids, but then when we bomb the entire fucking building, there's still kids in there. You know, in the most densely populated, you know, area in the world.
Sure.
And they're like, well, it's Hamas's fault for using them as human shields. They'll say that, or they'll say, you know, they're lying. That's not real. You know, denial, shit like that.
Sure.
They'll do whatever they can, whatever they need to say to themselves,
to protect the bubble.
Yes, and so that they can sleep at night too. Yeah, because they know what's happening.
Do they though? Because like then they wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
I think
right.
I think that there are
blissful ignorance.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who refuse to learn. A lot of them are in media bubbles, for sure. I know.
They have an answer to everything, that whole thing, you know?
I mean, I think for them, they are being fed a steady diet of, like, fear about anti-Semitism, that it's the only thing they can think about. But at the, you know, I refuse to believe that they haven't seen the images. And I think it's just when they see the images, they justify it. They go, well, it's war. And then they go, well, why don't they show the images of the Hamas fighters who are also dead, the ones who would have killed more Jewish babies? And, you know, for them, it's just like, by the very act of me seeing this, you're doing anti-Semitism. You're trying to make me feel bad about this. It's like this constant victim narrative that they have. And
doesn't that water real anti-Semitism down?
Yeah, completely.
Like when you keep kind of crying wolf over
yes.
and over and over,
yeah.
It kind of ruins it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the, you know, things that radicalized me as well, was not just like my being like genocide is wrong and Palestine needs to be free, but it was also the fact that it was in the name of Jewish safety, and it was doing the exact opposite of what they said. In fact, it was doing anti-Semitism in order to support this project. I found like just, you know, I've never stopped caring about anti-Semitism. I just realized who the biggest fucking anti-Semite in the world was, and it's the state of Israel. So I've moved on from, you know, like worrying about.
How are they anti-Semitic? Sorry.
How are Israelis anti-Semitic?
Well,
Israel I think, exports the biggest amount of anti-Semitism through the conflation of the state of Israel and Jews of the world, by saying we're doing this for Jewish safety, by saying this is about Jewish self-determination. This is about all Jews throughout the world, knowing that there's a home for them, a safe place for them. and then carrying out acts and atrocities that, you know, are completely unjustifiable and saying, no, but this is what we need to do as Jews. This is what we need to support as Jews. The idea that that is not going to make people be like, damn, Jews are doing a genocide. Like, that's a ridiculous thing. And the truth of it is, yeah, they don't care. They don't care that they are creating more anti-Semites. In fact, a great example of this was when Jonathan Greenblatt became the head of the ADL. There was some BDS legislation, I believe, that they were thinking of supporting. And the people who worked there were doing a study. They said, if we support this legislation, it'll actually increase anti-Semitism in the United States because it is going to be an attack on free speech. I mean, the right to boycott is free speech. You know, the right to divest is free speech. And he chose to support it anyways. The ADL chose to support it anyways.
It keeps them in
it
gives them a job, you know.
I mean, but it's also the ideologically they believe that the support for Israel is more important than the safety of Jews in the United States, and that's fucking crazy. Yeah. That's insane. You'd figure
anti-Semitic.
That's anti-Semitic. Yeah. They're saying we're going to do a little anti-Semitism, but it's for the greater good. That's the whole thing, and it's like it's crazy. It's crazy.
You know what? It's also a tragedy.
What?
Eurovision.
Oh my God.
And why are they actually allowed to perform at?
Listen, the fact that there's something about them performing at Eurovision that I like, because I'm like, let them do the thing where they're just like, but also we're European, you know, because everyone's like, yeah, we know, dog.
And then they're like buying votes, like with the different.
I mean, nothing has been more obvious in terms of like a voter rigging scandal than them like winning the audience vote of Spain. It's like, I don't think you're winning Spain, dog. Like, and you know, it's fun. What I love about this whole story is how invested Israelis are in winning Eurovision, and how they are such practiced like celebrators of losing things and pretending they won, that they just keep losing and being like, yeah, but we basically won in our hearts. It's very funny. There was, when the Eurovision thing happened, I was like, I don't know shit about Eurovision. I'm fucking, I'm American. I don't know. I don't care about Eurovision. But I just, my like Twitter timeline was filled with like Israelis being like, the world stands with us. You know, we're basically, they were like, we won Eurovision. We won the People's Choice Eurovision category or something. And I was like, oh, I guess fucking Israel won Eurovision. And then I just did a quick Google search. I wrote, who won Eurovision? And it was like Austria.
Yeah, Hungary.
And I was just like, this is insane. Guys, this is a Googleable. I know who won. And then I had to look. It was like, oh, they won second place. And they keep saying we won. And I'm like, I don't know if you guys know this, but second place, that's last place. Yeah. I'm sorry. There's winning.
Last,
there's winning and there's losing. That's how it works. I'm sorry, but
Eurovision, does that stand for Europe Vision?
I believe so.
And
Not like
are all the countries from Europe?
I don't know. I think Australia's in there, which is really funny. No, they're
colonies
they're
included.
European colony, yeah.
Right, exactly. And that's, I mean, if Australia's in, then Israel needs to be in too, you know? But yeah, it is I don't know, it's a very important song contest to the Europeans, I suppose. But what was interesting, there was one bit of Hespar that I was fascinated with, was Elon Levy, who is, he used to be the spokesperson for Netanyahu, and then he got fired.
Yeah. and for the listeners that don't know what Hasbara is, what is it?
Oh, it is. It's propaganda, Israeli propaganda. Yeah. It's in Israel. In Hebrew, it means to explain, but that's the euphemism. It's like, we need to explain why we had to bomb that hospital. It's like we need to do propaganda as to why we bombed that hospital. And I guess he was responding to someone saying like, well, if Israel can be in Eurovision, then Palestine should also be able to be in Eurovision. And like Elon Levy was just like, oh yeah, let's see Palestine win Eurovision, and then all of the then they have to host it in their country essentially. Then because the winner hosts the next one, and he's like, let's see Jenin, or let's see Ramallah flooded with European gays and see what happens. And the implication there being like, oh, and then all the gays will get killed. Yeah. And it's just like, it comes from this like place of just pure racism, where just this idea that Israelis like to instill in people that like the Palestinians are just animals. They, you put a gay person in there, they're gonna kill them immediately. You put anyone.
You wear a regular outfit.
Yes, you
try wearing
hair.
that over there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's this rewriting of history and Palestinian culture, and it's also, we're talking about the state of Israel, which uses blackmails gay Palestinians in order to they blackmail them. They use homophobia. They'll use anything at their disposal to smear people. And it just, to me, I was like, it's such like it comes from such a disgustingly racist place, where you are like, you're basically saying, oh yeah, see what happens when there's a bunch of gay people in there, and it's like, yeah, they'll get killed by fucking settlers. That's what'll happen. This is what will happen. The gay people from Europe will go there and they'll be like, oh damn, why do we get to go on this road? Why? What's that checkpoint about? They don't want people there. This is the whole thing. This is the common, the whole thing of Israelis talking about the West Bank and talking about the dangers of it. And it's like, they do it to keep people ignorant from it. It's the same reason
but at the same time, they're like, come to Israel.
Oh, come to Israel. Exactly.
We'll show you the good parts.
We'll show you the good parts. Yeah. We'll show you everything, everyone dancing, everyone's, living in peace and harmony. Don't worry about what's behind that literal fucking wall. It's like, it's just so on the nose. It's ridiculous.
No, yeah, it's almost funny.
Yeah.
How did you get into like the collective liberation space?
Am I in the collective liberation? I mean, I podcast.
Yeah. I feel like the first time I ever, because you do stand up.
Yeah,
you're a comedian,
right?
By
trade.
Yeah.
By night.
By night, and podcaster by day.
Even though it's nighttime, right?
Yes.
But so I think remind me, you did a speech in the middle of a street.
Yeah.
During a protest. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's
I've
done
been
things like that.
Yeah, I've been an activist for a while, and I've been involved in Palestinian solidarity, activism, and the movement for a while. I started getting involved, I think, a few years after Birthright, when I started making when I started talking to other Jewish people about this.
I was going to ask, were there other curious people there with you?
Oh, yeah. And so, and then there would always be someone who was involved in some org, and, we would talk, and I'd be like, I'll go and, kind of feel it out. And it was always very niche. It was a very small, group of people to begin with, because it was such a very specific subject. And most Americans don't really give a shit. And Jewish Americans in general are just like, no, I don't want to fuck with that. Fucking the Palestinians hate us. Why would I, support that? And then it wasn't until the last 18 months where you really started seeing an uptick in actions, and I just got involved, step by step, first sort of more squishy, I would call it like soft Zionist organizations. Like they weren't Zionists, they were anti-occupation. They weren't anti-Zionist. They would be like, we're non-Zionist anti-occupation, but we don't talk about Zionism. And I was like, okay, yeah, that makes me feel comfortable. Thank you for holding my hand. I'm a baby. But the truth of it is, for me, I needed to be babied, which is sad to say because most people, are just like, oh, that sucks that you had to have your hand held. But it's true.
Some people do. I mean, so it was anti-occupation. What does that mean? Like anti-apartheid?
Anti-apartheid. What it meant was
peace on earth.
What's that?
Like peace on earth?
Well, what it meant was the thing that we are going to be doing actions about and criticizing Israel about will be very specific to the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. Okay. And not get into the weeds about the system, what Zionism is, political Zionism, all that stuff. Kind of.
I feel like a lot of people do talk about the West Bank a little. Like they have. Yeah. Well, let's not talk about the West Bank, but there are things that they're comfortable criticizing
because it's sort of the safe zone when it comes to criticizing Israel, because it is something that is looked at even by Israelis, especially like Tel Avivians, right? Like people who are the more moderate city people, like
that all walk around with guns.
Yeah, that all walk around with guns, and they will be like, well,
the settlers.
The settlers are crazy, and the settlers are legitimately crazy. I mean, it is like the contrast is there. You'll see a lot more. Secular, put together Zionism in the city.
Yeah, you just saw Louis Theroux, the settlers documentary.
Yeah,
and I think that played a big part in swaying the UK's public opinion on what's going on.
100%.
And it took like a literal a guy with a British accent to be like, wow, this is crazy. And then
and it's crazy how little he talked in that documentary.
Yeah, he just let them talk. That's what he does,
I mean, he's so good at that. And then when he does push back, it's always just so biting, and it's always a question that pisses them off.
They're gonna answer it anyways, but they'll be pissed.
Right, but they're mad that you made them say it out loud. And with settlers, it's crazy because a lot of the times they'll say some pretty crazy shit out loud that you're like, oh damn, you just said that? That's wild. What kind of society do you live in? What's your community like that you can openly talk about ethnic cleansing and not bat an eye and not be like, what, did I say something weird? Why is everyone looking at me like that? All I just said was that babies grow up to be adult terrorists and that's why they need to die. Why is everyone mad at me right now? It's a pretty clear sign that the society is fucked, right?
So the first thing we were saying they can criticize the settlers.
It's a safe thing to do, and it's also been for a long time. United States foreign policy for a long time was critical of settlements. Yeah, and so that was kind of the safe zone until Donald Trump. Really, I mean, Donald Trump was the beginnings of we're moving the embassy to Jerusalem, which is this is a way of completely saying settlers, schmettlers, it's all Israel. That's the thing. And this is not to let Donald Trump off the hook, but this is essentially what the policy was. Even when the United States was like, oh, you really shouldn't do settlements. It was like, yeah, but you're not going to stop them, are you? Yeah. You're not going to stop sending guns to Israel. You're not going to stop selling them weapons. So then you being like tut-tutting about, oh, they shouldn't do that. That's not good. Well, it doesn't mean anything. You're not backing it up.
There was I saw an interview. I don't know if you saw this. It literally was like just a clip that I saw today. It was the neighbor of the alleged Israeli embassy attacker. They were interviewing him. He's like this over a 7-year-old guy. Yeah. And he did a masterful job of still centering. He's like, okay, there's 2 dead people here today, but there's over 50,000 at least
50,000 in Gaza.
That we know of dead and killed in Gaza. Yeah. And
tens of thousands at risk of starvation. All this shit. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So, but he ended it with saying basically if in the 50s, Eisenhower at least said get out of the Sinai. The Israel invaded the Sinai, and there was a U.S. president that had said at least you can't do that, and did something about it, right? And it forced their hand to get out. Yeah, and he said
Nixon.
Nixon was
Didn't Nixon? He called them and said stop.
And Reagan did this.
Oh, that was Reagan. Maybe it was Reagan.
In Lebanon.
That was what I meant.
They essentially said you're doing a fucking Holocaust there.
Yeah, I remember that.
So he at the end of it said, if we had a president that was like that like 18 months ago, where would we be?
Right. Yeah.
So at least we had the balls back then.
100%.
And obviously, after JFK trying to register AIPAC as a foreign agent, and you know what happened after that.
No, what happened to him? What happened?
You can look it up. Just Google it.
Just check it out. Just Google it real quick, and then Google who won Eurovision.
Yeah. And then
Lee Harvey Oswald won Eurovision.
And then Lyndon B. Johnson was like, "What? What's going on?"
Yeah.
So anyway,
I mean, it's a great point. It's a great point to make because I look at what happened to those Israeli embassy workers as 100% a failure of leadership when it comes to political leadership in the United States. Because what you have, I mean, I think it was JFK who said, I mean, probably other people have said it. He probably stole it from a black guy. But I think JFK is more famous for saying that, I
had a dream?
No, yeah, he said I had a dream.
He definitely stole that from a black guy.
That's MLK.
Yes,
Not
yes,
JFK.
That's right.
One of those acronyms.
I get them confused.
Yeah.
LBJ. Sorry, but what did he say?
That if you make peaceful protest impossible, you make violent resistance inevitable. Something along those lines. He did it in a pretty way, and with his, and Mandela has said the same thing. I mean, tons of people have said this. It's kind of obvious. That's what happens is if you do not allow people to. Make the change in that's civil.
They can protest, but they can't make the change. It seems
right. I mean, to me, that's the whole thing is like your political leaders are supposedly your representatives. They represent you and public opinion. Yeah. Public opinion is not on Israel's side, especially now. Yeah. And
these people are not representing their constituents now, apparently. So that's
and so what's
the friction?
And so I think
the system fails them. Go ahead.
Exactly, and I feel like what ends up happening is you get extreme violence as an act of desperation. I mean, you look at what happened with Aaron Bushnell. He literally, self-immolated. He burned himself alive, taped it, made sure that it was a live video too, so that they couldn't fucking delete it off the phone, so that they couldn't get rid of the evidence like they did with a woman who had done the exact same thing a month earlier, who they completely erased from the narrative. We still don't know her name. This woman tried to self-immolate in front of an Israeli embassy for the exact same reason that Aaron Bushnell did, and they erased it. He made sure it was out there, thinking, okay, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to protest, I'm going to say genocide's wrong. If we all go out there together and scream this at our politicians, we must get some change. Nothing happens. Aaron Bushnell, a nameless woman, are like, okay, you know what I'm going to do? It's an act of extreme protest. I'm not hurting anyone else but me. And I'm doing this because people need to know this spectacle, this act of desperation is for the people of Palestine who are fucking being genocided. Fucking nothing. Nothing happens. And so you make this kind of violence, political violence, inevitable when you have this pretense of democracy, and yet no one's voice is heard on this one issue.
Yeah, but nobody's reached their liberation not violently, right? Even this, so I ask, Second Amendment people, they're like, I was like, why was the Second Amendment made? Right? Yeah. Why was it made?
Are you asking me?
I mean, if you want to answer it.
I mean, it was, I don't know what a Second Amendment person would say. Yeah. I would assume because armed insurrection against a tyrannical government is the right of a free people.
Yeah, so what would you do if the government came and kicked your door down and tried to take your house?
I'd write a strongly worded letter.
Yeah, of course, and throw it and crumple it up.
Crumple it up, throw it in their face.
You would, I guess, hypothetically, defend yourself and use the weapons that you have. So I'm like, when I talk to somebody here in the States, I put it in that perspective, and they're like, oh yeah, I didn't really think about it like that.
And you know, people can argue the Second Amendment and the efficacy of like, all right, well, are we actually gonna, you know, the government got like nukes and stuff, like, are we really gonna win a war against them? It's sort of
nuke their own land.
I mean,
right.
Your little shotgun buddy is not going to work against these drones.
Right, but
they know where you live. Even though you haven't paid your taxes.
You have the at least the like something.
True. I mean, just in terms of the Second Amendment in general, you know, like I think it's what it represents is a more interesting question, right? Because it's like this idea of like the right of a liberated people to defend themselves against tyranny. And I think that is something that, I mean, it's written into like the fucking Geneva Conventions, the right of an occupied people to free themselves through violent means.
Yeah, I mean, I even asked, like, I flipped the script on that. I was like, would you call George Washington a terrorist?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
the British would.
The British would, exactly. I mean, you look at any of these...
But he's on our money now.
Right, I know. We got #1 terrorists on our money, yeah. I mean, the British probably look at that and go, this motherfucker.
Ugly wig.
Yeah, but with like a British accent.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this... I don't know how they say motherfucker.
Bloody beans and toast.
Bloody divey fucking fish and chips. You know.
The most average British
Yeah, I don't know how they talk. They're weird.
Stupid wooden teeth.
But like, you know, I think it was Thomas Jefferson or something who wrote that the tree of liberty is often watered by the blood of
as he's like, you know, calling for his slaves.
Of course, as he's like, hey, I want to make another baby. I'm not gonna, recognize.
Right.
No, but like, you know, the idea of like the tree of liberty being washed or being watered by the blood of tyrants or whatever is like fucking crazy, you know, kind of a dope thing to say. And I'm not a Thomas Jefferson guy, but it is like one of the things is kind of like understood right of a oppressed people to liberate themselves, right? And that's not to call for violent action. You know, it's not me saying good, yeah, start shooting, you know, fucking embassy workers, but it is absolutely a failure of political leadership in the United States that people are...
well, they never learn their lesson, right? They don't look at history, and they don't read a book, right? And then they don't see, like, okay, the same cycles are continuing. Bigger empires have fallen.
They don't care because they, you know, for them, politics, they know they're in it. They're in the system. They know it's an illusion. They know that democracy is an illusion. Yeah. So for them, they're just like, you know, I hate that you guys have to learn it this way. I hate that, you know, this is actually like a corporatist oligarchy. And now you're finding out by the fact that everyone is in agreement that or at least public opinion in general is like, stop giving guns to Israel. Fucking lowest bar ever. And they're like, no. Yeah. Sorry, we don't want to. But if we do that, then we won't get reelected.
Right.
Because then AIPAC is they're gonna give money to the other guy. So we're just gonna keep doing it. I'm sorry.
That's the most average Israeli accent I've ever heard.
This is an American congressman. It seems like
is every American congressman.
I think that's Cory Booker.
Sorry. Yeah, straight up, straight up.
What do they call him? AIPAC Shakur.
Yeah. AIPAC Shakur. Oh, that rules. Yeah, man.
That's crazy. Well, Matt, where can we see you next? Are you on tour? You got anything you can...
Yeah, I mean, I am going to be in, I'm going to be in Seattle in August and Houston in July. But I feel like I don't have the exact dates on it, and they're in my phone. So instead, what I will plug is my podcast.
Which one?
The
Bad Hasbro one?
The Bad Hasbro
one that needs the most help.
Yes. The one that
everyone knows.
The one that will at some point be, canceled by Google or whatever. All these podcasts are going away after, the fucking the embassy thing. They're gonna do all that. We're all fucked. But while we can.
Yeah, you were saying it's
Badass Bar, the world's most moral podcast. Me and Daniel Monte, my co-host, two anti-Zionist Jews.
Is that who I think it is?
Yes, it is Gabor Mate's son,
Nice.
his other son, and Aaron Mate's brother, older brother. Yeah, the Mate family. You know, it's just like
Amazing.
They're all dope.
They're in L.A.?
He lives in New York.
Oh, okay.
I think both of them are in New York, and Gabor Mate is everywhere. I think he's jet setting, but I think he's
Hopefully he'll be
here.
Yeah. That'll be great.
I have a question. Do you think your podcast helps combat anti-Semitism?
I would hope so, and the
With
reason.
Krav Maga.
Yes, yeah. We give people Israeli karate tips. No, I think it does, and the reason that
anti-Semitism, you know, it is a real issue.
Yeah,
and no one here supports that.
Of course,
it's like we, you know, as a Jewish person, you know, how do you feel like it helps?
It fights anti-Semitism because without voices on the left, this is the thing. Voices on the left, people, young people, and people who have analysis, people who are actually studying this from a place of being anti-colonial and being, anti-oppression of people. That's how this needs to. These are the voices that need to come out. Not just Jewish voices, but just anti-colonial voices, leftist voices, socialist voices, communist voices. I don't care, because otherwise, what you have is an alternate media space in which you have right-wingers doing the thing where they're saying the true thing. Israel's killing women and children in thousands. And people going, yeah, finally someone's fucking saying it. And then they go, I'm gonna listen to this guy. He's spitting facts. And then the next thing they say, like Dan Blitzerian will be like, and it's because there's this book called the Talmud that every Jew reads right before bed, and then they drink blood, and these fools will have the mic.
And
Those fools, it's not that they're like born to be anti-Semitic, but they're dumb as fuck. And so for them, they don't give a shit, and that's how you're gonna fucking get a real fucking anti-Semitism problem. And I don't center anti-Semitism, but the mere act of being an anti-Zionist Jew, I think, is not only about Palestinian oppression. It's also about ending anti-Semitism. It's about fighting it.
Well, the Anti-Zionist Jewish League is hiring.
Oh, hell yeah. I need a job.
Yeah. No. I'm trying to get you more.
Oh, yeah.
We're trying to recruit more.
You should do a whole comedy show.
Yeah.
Let me in.
Yeah.
Michael Schertzer and
Right. You three would be
Jacob Berger.
great.
I mean,
it would be fun. I love those guys.
Yeah.
And I'll be your Arab savior.
Yes, please.
It's like reverse Lawrence of Arabia.
I would love that.
I'll host it.
But all right, Matt, we finally made this happen.
I'm so glad.
And hopefully we can
Matt.
be on your.
I would love that.
Your maybe failed podcast coming soon.
No, amazing podcast. I
Make
mean,
it succeed.
Canceled podcast.
Yes.
let's run that till the wheels fall off.
yes.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you for coming, Matt.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
Hell yeah.
Follow him.
That was a lot of fun.
Lieb.
I love this fucking.
I said Assad.
Assad.
Lieb.
Lieb Assad.